Honestly, I've been a little down the last week or so, and it's come to light that just about everyone in sports media has received a DM from Baby Gronk's dad.
You see my Instagram? Say that, ready?
Just about everyone. Except for me. What the hell, Daddy Gronk? I would have absolutely allowed you to come onto my show and exploit your 10-year-old son. But now that I know you don't think this is a big enough channel for borderline child abuse, I've decided to rizz up my viewers with a new video about the craziest dads in sports. I, of course, would never exploit my child for anything, so I feel uniquely qualified to cover this subject. Let's take a look at some of the craziest dads in sports history and how they ruined/turned their kids into winning machines. You know what to do. Today's episode is sponsored by HelloFresh, and with my code That'sGood16, you're gonna get 16 free meals plus free shipping at HelloFresh.com. Now, one reason I keep using HelloFresh is because it's more convenient than going to the grocery store. It's cheaper, and I'm reducing food waste by 25%. Okay, that was 3 reasons. So here's a 4th. The HelloFresh box doubles as a tripod when you're too lazy to go downstairs and get a real one. Here's a 5th reason. I try new meals solely because of HelloFresh. They have 40 recipes to choose from every week, and I've never made or eaten chicken sausage spaghetti bolognese, but that's what I just cooked. Not only was it delicious, it was done in about 30 minutes. And they say a watched pot never boils. What they don't say is watching a boiling pot might burn off your face. Now, it can also be tough to eat well during the summer unless you have HelloFresh, which has Calorie Smart, Protein Smart, and new vegan recipes as well. So try HelloFresh this summer with my code That'sGood16 at HelloFresh.com and use those 16 free meals and free shipping to stick to an eating plan that works for you. There's only one place to start, and that's with the prototypical bad sports dad. A man who molded his son into an NFL QB from before birth. This is the sports dad who decides to start training their child like a pro athlete from day one. Yes, Marv Marinovich, father of Todd Marinovich, who was an experiment. He was more of a science project than he was a baby, as sad as that is to say. When he was in the womb, Marv made sure that his wife Trudy didn't consume any salt, sugar, alcohol, or tobacco. I mean, the last two are smart, but no salt and no sugar? That's crazy. When Todd was born, he was only fed raw milk plus fresh fruits and vegetables, teething on frozen kidneys and livers. Growing up, he wasn't allowed to have any sweets, any fast food, anything at birthday parties. He would have to bring his own cake and ice cream to ensure he didn't have any sugar or processed flour, and that's on top of all the crazy athletic training he was put through. Famously, during his first year at USC, Todd Marinovich said, "I don't want to be Todd Marinovich." That's a pretty good sign you've missed the mark as a dad. Another sign you failed, your kid talks about learning to be human again.
Title of the article is Learning to be Human Again.
Yes, learning to be human.
Marinovich was the 24th overall pick in 1991, heading into the NFL, and following a promising start, his career totally fell apart. He was using LSD before games. Guess Aaron Rodgers didn't look up his story, taking amphetamines, and had a stint in rehab that didn't stick and eventually flamed out of the NFL. Once upon a fairway, though, Mark O'Hare saw his son, Sean O'Hare, not as a child, but as a valuable commodity. Mark sold his stake in his family business for $2.75 million and made Sean sign a contract at age 17, securing 10% of his lifelong earnings. Mark's cunning business moves were showcased on 60 Minutes, where he proclaimed Sean to be his cheap labor to turn a profit. And you don't need to be a prophet to realize this did not end well. Rising from the ashes, Sean emerged as a remarkable golfer, leaving behind his troubled past. In 2005, he became the PGA Tour Rookie of the Year, a symbol of triumph and adversity. Now, there are a lot of fathers that are just as involved in their children's lives, but some of them actually achieve what they set out to accomplish. I'm thinking primarily of Tiger Woods' father, Earl Woods, who turned his son Eldrick into the greatest golfer we've ever seen, outside of maybe John Daly. Woods had developed into a prodigy at age 5, competing with Bob Hope in a televised putting competition.
How old are you, Tiger?
Daddy.
Two?
I'm not even suggesting that's the route to go, but unlike some of these other dads, at least Tiger and his father still seem to love each other. Then you have Venus and Serena Williams and their father, Richard Williams, who helped turn them into the best female tennis stars of all time. Williams wrote an 85-page plan for training them and got them on the court at age 4. He later expressed regret, saying if he could do it all over again, he would have waited until they were 6 years old. Now, Williams had his daughters in a tennis academy, pulled them out, and decided to teach the sisters tennis himself. Now, the story of their tennis upbringing and Richard Williams' tutelage turned into a movie called King Richard.
So what'd you think?
Which is best remembered as the film that won Will Smith Best Actor in 2022. Nothing else happened at that Oscar night as far as I can remember.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
Now, tennis players and golfers seem to have a lot of terrible sports dads. And I think that's because the team is removed from the sphere, and it's this weird one-on-one coach/parent approach with their child, which takes us to the saga of Jennifer Capriati, another prodigy-like talent who faced relentless pressure and had a complicated father-daughter dynamic with her dad.
But Capriati's principal coach is her Italian-born father, Stefano, who's groomed his daughter for tennis success from the age of 4.
She was also the wake-up call example for Richard Williams in the King Richard movie. Jennifer turned pro at an astonishingly young age, 13. Her father's ultimate goal, though, make money. The intense demands of the pro circuit took their toll, leading to a turbulent period that culminated in a drug-related incident when Jennifer was just 17. Again, the marijuana, which was a blip, but she burnt out and contemplated suicide. A renowned tennis columnist, Ian O'Connor, fittingly described Stefano's approach as treating his daughter like a ponytailed ATM, blurring the boundaries between parental guidance and ambitious aspirations. Not referenced in the film, though, about the Williams sisters, was Capriati's comeback, which is pretty incredible, winning 3 Grand Slams and making it into the Pro Tennis Hall of Fame.
We both started so young. We were both tennis prodigies. We both faced many challenges on and off the court. We both became champions under extreme pressure and expectation.
Bernard Tomic made quite the entrance into the professional tennis scene, boldly declaring his intention to become the greatest #1 player in history and win a Grand Slam. Fueling his confidence was his father, John.
When looking into the history of bad tennis parents, none rank quite as highly as John Tomic,
who notoriously dismissed offers from other players to hit and practice with Bernard, claiming they were simply not good enough. Weird approach to not let your kid practice with the best. However, John's involvement took a dark turn when he headbutted Bernard's practice partner, so maybe those other guys got lucky, resulting in a broken nose and a 12-month ban from the ATP Tour.
Despite coaching his son from childhood through today, John Tomic has never played tennis, and his antics throughout his son's professional years have not only overshadowed Bernard's achievements, but undoubtedly influenced the behavior we see his son display today.
He was also sentenced to 8 months in prison for assault. The worst part is John turned his son into a tennis meme, setting him up to fail handling life and professional tennis.
When did you start playing? How young were you?
4 years old, about.
You're kidding, you couldn't hold the racket.
I know,
at 12, could you?
I probably will not be able to call that tennis, but at least I was carrying the racket.
Steffi Graf's dad, not just a bad dad, but a terrible manager. I think it gets weird when the parent maintains control over their kid's money after that kid grows into an adult. But having your kid only focus on sport is a great way to ensure other life skills suffer. Graf is one of the greatest women's tennis players of all time. She ranked #1 in the world for 377 weeks, the longest for any men or women's player ever. That's 7.2 years. Daddy Graf, though, ranked as the worst dad for 378 weeks. As her manager, he controlled all aspects of her career, life, and again, finances. In 1997, Steffi was initially accused of failing to pay $7.3 million in taxes. Obviously, it was her father, Peter, who was the delinquent, and he was ultimately sentenced to 25 months in prison. Peter died in 2013 of cancer, where Steffi was able to reconcile with him shortly before his passing. In the chilling world of ice hockey, a story of financial chaos and family drama unfolded, starring none other than Jack Johnson Jr. in 2014. The seasoned NHL star found himself filing for bankruptcy. Jack revealed that he was burdened by a staggering debt exceeding $10 million, a mountain of financial obligations he swore he had no knowledge of acquiring. Enter Jack's parents, the dynamic duo of Jack and Tina Johnson, who were granted power of attorney when Jack was just 19 years old. With a combination of astounding, reckless, and misguided intentions, they swiftly burned through Jack's colossal 7-year, $30 million contract with the Los Angeles Kings. But that's not all. Oh no, they even went as far as securing loans worth over $10 million in their son's name, leaving Jack completely oblivious to the financial quagmire he was sinking into. In 2018 though, Jack inked a lucrative 5-year, $16.25 million contract with the Penguins, serving as a financial lifeline that helped rescue him from the depths of debt. He won a cup with the Avs just last year and should finish his career with $55 million in earnings. Amidst the wreckage, Jack made a firm decision to sever ties with his parents, leaving behind the painful chapters of their once intertwined lives. Then you have the money and fame chasers. Yes, Lavar Ball enters the chat. Now, when Lonzo Ball became a star at UCLA, his fame was eventually grabbed by his dad, Lavar, who may have been the most supportive father of all time, and probably not in a healthy way. Lavar was a pretty forgettable college basketball player himself, averaging just 2 points per game at Washington State, but famously claimed that he could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one.
He's too small. His name is big, and y'all like, it was a 5-on-5 game, he good. One-on-one, I'm undefeated.
Wait, is that how you get on ESPN? I, personally, could beat Stephen A. Smith one-on-one. I could beat Pat McAfee one-on-one. Bring me on, ESPN. Now, Lavar was just as bombastic when it came to his kids, saying some outlandish things like Lonzo was better than Steph Curry. I'm not exactly Bill Simmons when it comes to the NBA, but I feel like that might have aged poorly. Lavar described Lonzo as Magic Johnson with a jumper, which basically would mean he's the greatest basketball player of all time. It turns out, though, that Lonzo was not the best of the balls. After going second in the NBA draft, his career was derailed, ironically, by a pretty bad jumper as well as some injuries. The best son is LaMelo, who's turned into a flashy point guard with a lot of potential on an otherwise bad Charlotte Hornets team. Now, it's hard to say that Lavar was a bad father. I don't know if anyone's ever believed in their children so much, even if a lot of that was entirely irrational. Also, he made a lot of money through the Big Baller brand, so he knew how to grab the spotlight and capitalize monetarily.
You want the money up front. You want the money up front. Right here. You want the money up front. You want the money up front.
I do think it's unhealthy, though, when the parent wants to become part of that spotlight, and Lavar may be the best and most recent example of that. Marvin Bagley's dad, Marvin Bagley II, wasn't quite as vocal as Lavar, but he also caused quite a bit of controversy when his son got to Sacramento, telling the Kings to trade his son on Twitter. Turns out the Kings would take his advice, and that trade netted them Trey Lyles, who turned out to be a pretty big reason they ended their playoff drought last season. Sadly, this list could keep going, okay? There are more examples out there, but I gotta stop at some point. There's a fine line between being a good dad and being an overbearing dad. One of the themes in all of this is that these crazy dads were never as good at sports as their offspring, and it seems like their involvement in their kids' lives were a way to live vicariously through them, in a way live out their dreams that they never got to fulfill in their own careers. And I think baby Gronk is the epitome of that. And I really don't want to give his dad attention. The problem here is that baby Gronk might turn out to be a good football player. He is a good football player right now, I guess, but the odds of him dominating post-puberty and realizing that early promises are very, very slim, he's putting a huge target on his own son's back. And his kid isn't old enough to be aware that he's being manipulated by the man he trusts more than anyone. If you want your son or daughter to love sports, you can't force it on them. Give them a chance to experience what it's like to succeed or fail on their own accord, and be okay with the idea that they may not love what you love. Or if they do love sports, they might not be good at it, and that's okay too. What I want to do as a dad, besides love my kid unconditionally, is show her, if she wants, what it takes to be great. Not just in sport, but in any aspect of life. And that's what I really love about youth sports. It teaches you at a young age how to deal with failing, and that failing is part of learning and getting better. And when you embrace that part of the process, you can learn to master anything, not just sports. And instead of looking at that opportunity, especially if your kid is very good at it, as a way to turn them into a superstar or how you can financially benefit from it later down the road, sports should be used as a way to help make your child a more well-rounded individual and nothing else. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports super special Father's Day edition. Please subscribe here on YouTube if you want more sports and football videos. Happy Father's Day. I'm very lucky. I had a great father. Happy Father's Day, Dad. Thanks for not fucking me up. Mostly.